The morning my daughter taped a household contract to my refrigerator, the magnet scraped across the paint like a tiny scream. She smoothed the paper flat with the back of her hand, the same hand I held the day she took her first steps across the living room rug of this same row house. In neat purple ink, under a title that looked like a party flyer, she'd written out my day from 5 in the morning to 11 at night. Wake, cook, dress the kids, scrub, wash, fold, sweep, wipe, shop, repeat. And because fair is fair, the last line said I would cover all groceries, utilities, school fees, and incidental family wellness needs with my pension. Her name is Nyla. My name is Evelyn Moss. I am 66 years old, a retired city bus driver, and this is my house on Edmondson Avenue in West Baltimore. And I swear to you, that paper felt heavier than any gearbox I ever wrestled on a winter route. For a minute, I said nothing. I watched the magnet lie to the paper, pretend it was holding it up, while all the weight rested on me. A hook is just the truth with its breath held, so here is mine. My own daughter tried to turn me into hired help in the home I bought and paid for long before she learned to write her name. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If my voice finds you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. Sign it, Ma, Nyla said, tapping the bottom line. Jaden already signed. We're just organizing the house. This will help you feel useful. Jaden, her man, leaned in the kitchen doorway with the look of a person who thinks a smile is better than an apology. He had my favorite coffee mug in his hand like it grew there. It's structure, he said. Everybody wins. Malik and Zuri were on the floor in the next room with their tablets. 8 and 6. They were building square houses in a square world that offered no doors unless you crafted them yourself. What if I don't sign? I asked. Nyla blinked. She had on the silver hoop earrings I bought her for her 21st birthday. Then don't sign, she said. But Jaden talked to someone. We've been here 2 years. We got rights. So if you don't want to be part of the solution, you can go stay with Aunt Vi. We'll keep the kids stable here. Stable, I said. On my utilities. On family, said Jaden. I turned to the fridge. The magnet was a little wooden crab I picked up in Ocean City the summer before my knees started to talk back. I took it down and slid the paper free. I read the fine print in Nyla's neat purple letters. Sundays were family reset days. Translation, I had to plan to give the household space from noon to 9, my own house, empty of me by order. Something in me that had been asleep woke up and stretched its legs. You forgot something, I said. What? Said Nyla, crossing her arms. You forgot my name on the deed. Jaden chuckled. Ma, nobody's trying to fight. Just sign you want breakfast? I asked him, as if we were talking about eggs and not earthquakes. Please, he said. The mug looked smaller in his hand. I cracked 2 eggs into a pan, turned the flame low, and let the oil whisper. I didn't look at them while I cooked. People tell you who they are when you stop filling the silence for them. Nyla went to the living room and began picking up bits of paper the kids had left on the rug, like that made her tidy. Jaden slid into a chair and scrolled his phone. The smell of eggs pulled something soft into the room, and with it came the sharp edge under it. The way back to the days after my husband died, when I taught myself how to be quiet enough to hear the house creak and still be unafraid. I plated the eggs, I made toast, cut it on the diagonal just the way Jaden liked, though he'd never asked me why I knew. I brought the plate to the table and set it down in front of him. Then I took the contract, folded it clean in half, and slid it under the plate like a napkin. He looked up at me. What? I smiled. Eat, I said. You'll need your strength. I didn't sign. That afternoon, I walked down to Miss Patrice's place. Patrice lives 3 doors down, and she knows everybody's grandmother's maiden name and the real reason folks don't speak. Her stoop, is where news sits to cool. She saw me coming and tucked her knitting against her waist, like she was readying her hands for trouble. "You look like truth just caught you by the heel," she said. "Come inside." In her kitchen, under the soft clink of a spoon in a sugar jar, I told Patrice the whole thing. The schedule, the threats, the way my grandbabies already spoke to me like I was a service bell they could press. I did not cry. I was past that. I was the sound after crying. Patrice listened and didn't reach for a bandage that wasn't hers to place. When I finished, she said, "You know the number for Avery?" "Who's Avery?" "Legal aid, landlord and elder stuff. Smart, soft voice, sharp mind. Black woman the age of your Nyla with the temper of your mother. She will tell you where the ground is, and then she will show you where to put your feet." I wrote the number on the back of a grocery receipt and folded it into my wallet. On the way home, I stopped at the ATM, took out 2 crisp $100 bills from the emergency fund I called my rainy day, and decided maybe this was a storm. Back at the house, Nyla was on the phone telling someone I was being dramatic. Jaden had his feet up on my coffee table. There were rings from his glass sweating into the wood. My husband's portrait on the wall watched from the corner like he knew but couldn't come down and join me. I pressed my lips closed so tight the taste of salt came up. The next morning at 9, I sat in a small office on Greenmount Avenue with a plant in the corner that had learned how to live for the light. A young man in a gray suit called my name first. I stood to follow, but the receptionist stopped me with a gentle touch. "You're with Miss Avery Brooks," she said. "She's right there." Avery came out in flats and a blue blazer. She had a smile that looked like she could apologize and win at chess in the same breath. We shook hands. Her eyes were a little tired in the way honest people's eyes are. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. The contract, the money, the threat to keep the kids stable, the Sunday exile, the way they'd started saying "our house" without a blush. She wrote while I talked, but not like a person trying to keep up, like a person building a set of stairs we could climb later. When I finished, she leaned back and looked at me the way women look at each other when the room is only women and the truth is the only guest. "Miss Moss," she said, "what your daughter and her partner are doing has a name. It's elder exploitation. It's also trespass if you revoke permission, and they remain. They do not become tenants by magic. Rights don't grow because someone refuses to move. They grow from agreements and payments and consent. You own your home outright?" "Yes," I said. "Deed in my fireproof box, under the sweaters." "Good," said Avery. "We're going to set 3 boundaries. First, written notice. Permission to reside here is revoked unless they agree in writing to new terms you set. Rent at market rate, equal sharing of utilities, and full respect for your privacy and your room. Second, immediate notice to the man's mother or anybody else who shows up with luggage and a soft voice that they are guests only with your consent. And today you do not consent. Third, bank protections. Change your PINs, remove their access to any cards, and if you've ever given your card to get something quick, that ends now. I felt my shoulders drop, like she'd loosened a strap I did not know I carried. "How much for the letters?" I asked. "For seniors," she said. "We cap it low." "We'll draft tonight." "Draft today," I said, and set my 2 crisp bills on the desk, like down payment on my own spine. Her mouth tilted, not quite a smile. "Today, then." I went straight from Avery's office to the bank. The manager, a woman with gray braids and a pink sweater, did not ask me to explain when I said I needed new cards and new codes. She saw my hand shake when I set my ID on the counter, and she put her palm down flat like pressing a wrinkle out of a tablecloth. "Let's make sure only you can feed your accounts," she said. When I left the bank, the day felt different. Not sunnier, clearer. My house was still my house, but now there was a line around it drawn in ink. At noon, I came home to find Nyla in my bedroom closet with a trash bag. She had her back to me, and, Lord help me, she was humming. On my bed, my husband's bed, she had laid out my dresses in 3 piles like I was the one moving to make room. "What are you doing?" I asked. She spun like a child caught with a mouthful of sugar. "Oh, we were thinking, Jaden and I, that you could take the small room off the kitchen. It's closer to where you'll be in the morning. Easier." "The pantry," I said. "It used to be a service room," she said brightly. "You don't need much space." My hands were quiet, but inside me something made of steel rose from a seat and rolled its shoulders. "Put the bag down," I said. "Mama, why are you like this?" "We're trying to help you get organized." "Put the bag down." She let it fall. The bag collapsed like it was empty of anything but air. That evening, I printed Avery's letters, one for Nyla, one for Jaden, one general notice stating that no guest may stay overnight without my written consent, and that consent was not granted to Jaden's mother or any relative or friend. The letters were short, no poetry, just the law, lined up like marching boots. At dinner, I set plates down on the table, and with each plate I set a letter. I did not make the kids eat in their room. I did not raise my voice. I did not defend myself to people who had lost their mirrors. "What is this?" Jaden asked. "Words with a backbone," I said. He read the first line. His lips moved. His confidence softened at the edges. Nyla's eyes went red, not the deep red of grief, but the bright red of anger, embarrassed to be seen. "You can't be serious," she said. "You called a lawyer on your own daughter?" "I called a lawyer about my own house," I said, "and my own life." Jaden tried a different door. "I spoke to somebody too," he said. "We got rights." 2 years is 2 years. "You spoke to the internet," I said. "The internet is not the law." He pushed his chair back, but it bumped the table leg and the plates shuddered. Malik looked up, his face small and round and too careful for 8. Zuri slid her tablet into her lap like it could protect her. I stood. "Listen to me," I said to the children, not their parents. "Your grandma loves you more than any sun in any sky. That will not change. But people who love each other don't make one person do all the work and pay all the bills. Love doesn't hide in schedules that only go one way. We'll still have our Saturdays together. We'll make pancakes too big for plates. That part stays." Zuri nodded like she was memorizing new rules for a game she hadn't realized she was playing. After the kids were in their room, Nyla cried. She used the cry she learned at 12, the one that solved every problem except the real ones. "We were just trying to build something," she said. "Build it with your own hammer," I said. The next morning at 5:30, the doorbell woke us all. On my porch stood a woman in a satin bonnet and a trench coat with a pair of huge suitcases and an expression that said, "Everyone else was late." "I'm Jaden's mother," she announced, pushing past me like she'd been invited by the wind. "Coffee?" "Good morning," I said, and held the door. In my kitchen, she sat and listed the ways her health was delicate, and her breakfast must be precise. Dry eggs, bare toast, light coffee like tea, fresh fruit, but only the good kind. I opened the fridge and saw 2 yogurts with Nyla's name written in marker, and an almost empty carton of milk. "I don't have what you require," I said. She laughed, not kindly. "Run to the store," she said. "I can wait." Jaden wandered in, smelling like cologne and sleep. "Ma, you didn't shop?" he said to me, as if I were his mother, as if I were anyone's purchase. I saw the little girl I had been, standing in a kitchen I did not control, watching adults make choices I would spend years forgiving. I closed the fridge. "There's toast and peanut butter," I said. "You are welcome to have it. You are not welcome to stay." Jaden's mother blinked. "Excuse me?" I slid Avery's 3rd letter across the table. "No overnight guests without my written consent. Consent is not granted. You have until tomorrow at noon to make other arrangements." "You can't just—" "I can," I said. "And I am." Jaden called Nyla. Nyla came in a tangle of robe and indignation. "Mama, why are you like this?" And then, "What do you expect me to tell the kids? That their grandma put their own family out in the street?" "You will tell them the truth," I said. "That grandma put respect back in the house." The hours that followed were the longest hours I had lived in a decade. Jaden talked fast and loud. Nyla whispered and cried. Jaden's mother sat with her arms crossed and her suitcase open like she might pull a miracle out of it. I made tea and washed the same mug twice. When noon came, I did not look at the clock. I looked at the door. At 12:05, Jaden's brother pulled up in a pickup. He did not come in. He took the suitcases and gave me a look that surprised me. Apology without words. He put his hand to his heart. I nodded back. Sometimes the good one is the quiet one. That night was the first quiet night in this house in 2 years. Even the pipes seemed to say, "Finally." I slept with the window cracked, and the air went in and out like a chest learning how to breathe again. The next days were a hard kind of steady. Nyla tried every door. First the sweet one. "We can talk without paperwork." Then the small one. "You'll miss the kids if you make us leave." Then the sharp one. "People will think you're cruel." None of the doors opened because I had changed the locks. Not just the ones with keys, the ones in my head. Avery filed things. Words grew teeth. Time shrank excuses. I learned to make my coffee 1 cup at a time, not a pot meant for an army that never did the dishes. I learned how quiet looks on a table. I learned the size of my own appetite when it wasn't busy feeding a problem. On a bright, cold morning when my breath showed like a small cloud, Nyla came to the kitchen with her hands empty. No contract. No bags. No tone. Just the girl who once lined up her crayons by color and asked me if purple tasted like grapes. 30 days, she said. "We can't do the rent you wrote." We found a place on the east side. It's small. "Small can be kind," I said. She nodded. She looked at my stove. "Do you remember when we had no gas for a week in January, and you boiled water on the hot plate so we could pretend it was warm?" "I do," I said. "I remember everything." "I thought you'd always be soft," she said. "I am," I said, "just not dissolving." She laughed once, not mean. "We'll move," she said. "Can the kids still come Saturdays?" "Yes," I said. "I'll pick them up. I'll bring them back. I'll text you," she said. "About times." "Put it in writing," I said. And we both smiled, because we were tired and because maybe that was funny now. The day they left quietly. No speeches. No slamming. Jaden carried a television past my husband's picture and did not meet his eyes. Nyla carried a box of dishes I had given her, and she touched the top plate the way people touch things they didn't break but might have. The kids hugged me and told me about the new place while Nyla said she'd send the address. I wrote it down on a sticky note and pressed it to the inside of the pantry door where the words "Sunday Exile" had once hung. I left the sticky crooked on purpose. Perfect lines had started this. That first Saturday alone, I walked to the farmer's market with my tote and bought too many peaches for one woman. I bought flowers and set them in a jar beside the sink, and when I saw their yellow heads, I felt something in my chest lift its face to the light. I made a pan of cornbread just because I wanted to smell it. I sat. I ate a slice hot and tore the crunchy edge with my fingers. I did not offer anyone a bite. The silence was wide and good. It did not push me out. It made room. When Malik and Zuri came the next weekend, we walked to the park and made a game of naming every dog we passed. Back home, I taught them how to hold a knife and a tomato so your thumb is never in danger. We made a sauce and let it simmer while we played Uno, and when Nyla texted to say she was stuck and would be late, I sent back, "Take your time. We're good." And we were. Later, after I washed the last plate and shut off the lamp, I stood in the doorway of my room and felt the dark like a soft coat. I whispered to the woman I had been for 2 years, the woman who made breakfasts at dawn and folded towels with the care of someone earning their keep in a space they owned. "You were trying to keep the peace," I told her. "You don't have to anymore. Peace keeps itself when the rules are true." I slept. I dreamed nothing I had to carry into the morning. 3 months after the contract, Avery called to say the filings were complete and any claims Nyla and Jaden had puffed up with Google Air had fallen flat on a judge's desk. "How does freedom feel, Ms. Moss?" she asked. "Like a kitchen with flowers," I said. "Like a Saturday that belongs to itself." I took a dance class at the rec center on Tuesday nights because Patrice said my hips were still telling the truth, even if my knees liked to argue. I hired a nursing student to rent the spare room, so there would always be another heartbeat in the house after dark, and because a little rent in my pocket gave me the thrill I used to get from finding $10 in a winter coat from last year. I learned the names of my neighbors' dogs for real, not just the names we made up for the walk. I called my sister every Thursday. I put my husband's picture on top of the piano where he could see the front door. I swear his mouth softened. "You want one more twist? Here it is." One day in late spring, Jaden knocked on my door and stood with his cap in his hands like he'd brought a storm and didn't know how to apologize for the rain. "I got a job," he said. "Real one. Union. Outside the city. We're moving at the end of the month." "Congratulations," I said, and I meant it. "Work changes a man's posture." He nodded. "Thank you for not calling the police that morning with my mother." His voice caught a little on the word mother, and I remembered he was somebody's child too, the same as Nyla. "I called the law," I said. "That's different." He smiled. He looked past me into the living room at the jar of sunflowers on the table and the way the light fell across the rug like a blessing nobody had to earn. "You did good," he said. "I did necessary," I said. He touched the brim of his cap and went down the steps, and I closed the door and leaned my back against it for a second, not because I was afraid, but because the wood was cool and my heart was warm, and sometimes you need 2 temperatures to make a memory set. I am telling you all this for a reason. Not for the drama, not for the claps, for the person listening who is sitting in a kitchen that doesn't feel like theirs, holding a schedule they did not ask for, paying for a life that calls them a burden. If that is you, hear me. The line between love and labor is not supposed to be invisible. Draw it. Sign your own name. Get help that knows the rules. The house will feel like a house again. Your name will feel like your name. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you felt my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. The day I found the bright orange envelope stuck to my front door with blue painter's tape, my hands went cold before I even opened it. Across the front, in block letters, it said, "Recorder of Deeds, Urgent." Inside was a copy of a form I had never seen, stamped and filed, with a notary seal where my signature should have been. According to that paper, I had quit-claimed my house to E. Moss and J. Carter, joint tenants with rights of survivorship. J. Carter is Jaden. I didn't sign it. I didn't even know the word quit-claim last week. But there it was. Ink that wasn't mine, a signature that looked like a child tried to copy my name through a window. Here's the hook. 2 months after I took my house back with a letter and a line in the sand, somebody tried to steal it with a stamp. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If my voice finds you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. I stood in my hallway with the orange envelope open and the afternoon light slanting across the floor like a ruler. For one long breath, I felt the old fear trying to climb my spine. Then I put the kettle on, called Avery, and set out 2 mugs, one for me, one for the truth. She answered on the second ring. "Tell me." I did. I read the names, the date, the so-called witness, the notary number. I read the lie out loud so it couldn't crawl into my chest and hide there. Avery said, "Okay." This is a deed scam. It happens more than it should. People try to file fake papers and count on the owner being old, scared, or slow to act. You're none of those. What do we do? I asked. "We record your affidavit of fraud," she said, plain as toast. "We alert the recorder. We flag your parcel so any change triggers a call to you and to me. We file a police report. And we find the notary. If their stamp is real, they'll remember who was in that chair. Do I have to go to court?" I asked. "Maybe. But the first fight is paper. Paper started this. Paper will end it." I took my husband's picture off the piano and set it on the table, while I wrote my name with a pen that was actually mine. I told the paper I had not signed, had not sold, had not given anything away but my patience. It felt like putting my palm on my own pulse and saying, "Here, alive." We drove to the recorder's office the next morning. The building is all marble and echo, and the counters are high like the past wants to look you in the eye. I wore my church shoes. Avery wore flats. The clerk took one look at the false deed, read the names, and her mouth flattened into the line women make when they want to spit but won't. "Seen 3 like this month," she said. "You're the first one to walk in before it stuck." "Why me?" I asked. She looked at my hair, at my hands, at the address. "Because people think older means easy," she said. "They forget older also means we know where the doors are." We filed the affidavit. We put a fraud alert on the parcel. We gave copies to a detective who wrote in a little book with a stubby pencil and asked good questions, the kind that sit with you a while and then open like a seed. Back home, I washed my cup and left it upside down to dry. Then I did a small, stubborn thing. I oiled the grooves of my front door lock and turned the key, just to feel the simple rightness of something I owned doing what I asked. 3 days later, Malik knocked on my door after school. He looked taller in his coat, and there was a crease between his eyes I did not like. "Grandma," he said, stepping into the hall like he wasn't sure if he was allowed. "Can I sit?" "Always," I said, and put a bowl of cut-up apples on the table, because small hunger never knocks alone. He picked up one piece, turned it in his fingers, and whispered, "Mom and Jaden were fighting." Loud. He said something about, "The deed didn't go through and you're messing up my future." And Mom said he lied to her too. Then he threw a glass. It didn't hit anybody. Mom told him to leave. He slammed the door so hard the mirror shook I felt the old anger try to drag on its coat again. I lifted my chin and put it back on its hook. "Are you safe?" I asked. He nodded. "We stayed at Aunt Vi's last night." Mom cried in the bathroom. She told me to come tell you she's sorry. She said real sorry, like the kind where you look different. I poured him milk and sat across from him so he didn't have to look up to talk to me. "Do you want to stay here tonight?" I asked. "You and Zuri." "I'll call your mother." He shook his head. "Mom wants us with her." "She said to tell you. She needs help, not money help. The other kind I called Nyla. Her voice was raw, not from performance, but from use. "Ma," she said, "I didn't know about that paper." "I swear, he told me it was something with his union." "I'm so stupid." "No," I said, and I surprised myself with how fast I said it. "You did a cruel thing to me, yes. But you're not stupid. Stupid is a choice. You picked wrong. That's different." She cried. Not the 12-year-old cry this time. The grown woman one, the kind that washes a face clean. "I left him," she said. "I told him not to come back. The landlord says we're behind because Jaden didn't pay the last month. I thought he did. We have till Friday. I don't want to come back to your house. I know better, but I need a plan, plans I can do. Come here tomorrow morning, I said. Just you. We'll go see Avery. When she hung up, I stood in the kitchen and looked at my hands. They were the same hands that used to tie her shoes before school, the same ones that held the steering wheel through rain and ice and night bus stops where men argued with the dark. They were not soft hands, but they were steady. That would be enough. Nyla came in a hoodie, no earrings, hair pulled back like you do when a day has to be lived through. She smelled like laundry soap and outside air. "I'll pay you back for the hour," she said as soon as we sat in Avery's office. "You'll pay me back by listening," I said. Avery spoke to my daughter the way she spoke to me, like a woman speaking to a woman. No sugar, no knives, just bread and a map. She laid out choices. We could file charges for the deed scam. We could seek a protection order if Jaden showed up at the apartment. We could connect Nyla with a worker who helps single mothers find safer leases. And with a job training program that doesn't care who you used to be if you show up on time. "You can't fix the past," Avery said, "but you can fix your side of the door." On the walk home, Nyla kept pace with me like old times. At the corner, she stopped and looked at the sun falling behind the row houses. "I want to say sorry in the right way," she said. "Not with flowers, not with a post on the internet, not with whatever. With days. I want to say it with days. Then put your apology on the calendar," I said. "Show up for it. Bring your own pen." The week folded itself around new shapes. Nyla moved the kids to Aunt Vi's while she sorted the lease. Jaden left 3 voicemails that started with "Be reasonable" and ended with "You owe me," which told me exactly what kind of weather he thought he was. I didn't call him back. I sent him a photo of the affidavit and the case number. Paper speaks clear when people won't. On Thursday night, Patrice and I sat on her stoop with our coats buttoned to our necks and hot tea in paper cups. "You know what you should do," she said, her needles clicking soft as rain. "Turn your kitchen table into a little clinic. 1 night a month. Avery can come, or that young paralegal with the good hair. Folks bring their papers that feel heavier than they look. You show them where your line is and how to draw theirs." "I'm not a lawyer," I said. "You're a door," she said. "Some of us just need to see one open." The idea sat in my pocket like a smooth stone. I rolled it with my thumb while I fell asleep, and in the morning I put it on the counter next to my coffee and looked at it in the light. Yes, I thought. But first, the sharp turn. The sharp turn arrived on Friday with a bang on my door that made the glass tremble in the frame. I opened it to find Jaden on my steps, hood up, eyes bright and flat like bottle caps. He smelled like cheap cologne and bad sleep. "You did this," he said, waving a copy of the affidavit. "You're breaking up a family." "You and that lawyer. Your forgery broke the family," I said. "My paper kept my house." He stepped in like he had last time, and I put my palm on his chest without force, but with full meaning. "No," I said. "Stop right there." He looked down at my hand, surprised anyone would lay anything on him that wasn't soft. "You always thought you were better than me," he said. "No," I said. "I always knew I was older than you." "Older means I can see around corners." He laughed, too loud for the space. "I'm going to take what's mine." "Nothing in here is yours," I said. He tried to push past me, and there are moments a woman remembers what her body is for. Mine was for buses and babies and groceries carried upstairs. It was also for this. I planted my feet and held my ground like a tree that had been here before he was born. I raised my voice so the neighbor 2 doors down could hear, and I said, clear as the kettle's whistle, "You are trespassing. Leave my porch." He looked up and saw Patrice on her stoop with her phone in her hand. He saw Mr. Lionel across the street looking over his hedge like a judge with a good memory. He saw he was alone. "You'll be sorry," he said, but he was already stepping back. "No," I said. "I'm done being sorry for other people's choices." He went down the steps. At the sidewalk, he turned and gave me a look that tried to be a curse. I shut my door on it. The lock clicked once, then again. That night, I didn't sleep much, not out of fear, out of the hard awareness that endings don't come with a bow, even the true ones. They come like dawn, slow, then all at once, then the day is here, and you're in it. On Saturday morning, Nyla called. Her voice was small but standing up. "Ma, the landlord gave me a number for a 1-bedroom. It's clean, close enough for the bus, month to month till I get the second job. Can you look over the paper before I sign?" "Yes," I said. "Bring it by." She came with the kids. Malik went to the back to play with my old dominoes. Zuri lay on the rug and drew a house with a garden that had more flowers than grass. Nyla set the lease on the table and sat. "I have something for you," she said, and slid a folded sheet across the wood. I opened it and found 2 pages written in her neat purple letters, the same letters she'd used on that awful contract. Only this time the ink told the truth. It was a letter, not the kind you fold inside a birthday card, the kind you write because you have to put the weight somewhere it won't sink you. She wrote about the day she asked me to be her maid in the house I bought. She wrote about seeing me as reliable and mistaking that for endless. She wrote about standing in my closet with a trash bag and humming because she didn't want to hear herself think. She wrote, "I made you small so my fear could feel big enough to be real." And when I read that line, I had to look out the window at the street, because sometimes sunlight is kinder on your face than tears. "I can't take it back," she said, "but I can take it forward." We walked through the lease. We circled the parts that could cut her if she wasn't careful. Late fees that jump like snakes, rules that sound like help but aren't. She signed with her own hand, and when she stood, I saw the girl with the crayons and also the woman with a plan. Both were my child. After they left, the house felt full in a right way. I called Avery. "We're good," I told her, "on both fronts." "Detective says the notary's stamp was real but stolen," she said. "He thinks your boy had a friend who had a friend with a drawer full of bad paperwork. They'll handle that part." "Will he go to jail?" I asked. My voice did not cheer at the thought. It didn't break either. It just asked. "Maybe," she said, "if they find the chain all the way back. You don't have to carry that. Your house is safe." I thanked her and hung up with a new thought, waiting like a person at the door. I took out my diary, the one with the cracked blue cover, and wrote a sentence that felt like a hinge. "My revenge is the life I live in the house they couldn't take." The kitchen table clinic started small. 4 neighbors, 7 paper problems, 1 pot of chicken soup, a plate of cornbread, and Avery's paralegal with the good hair who laughed like she meant it and could read a lease like a pianist reads chords. We set out pens that worked and highlighters that didn't bleed. People brought envelopes with tape instead of glue. They brought letters with words that bite. We turned them over, named the teeth, and filed the right answers in the right places. Word got around. By the 3rd month, we had 12 folks and a sign-up sheet. Mr. Lionel brought lemon bars. Patrice made flyers with a hand that doesn't shake. We called it Open Doors. No big speeches, just a table, some paper, and the knowledge that fear shrinks in company. Nyla came sometimes and helped watch little ones while their mamas talked to Avery. She took a second job at a clinic, evenings. On Saturdays, she dropped off the kids and didn't try to fix the arrangements by adding little favors that feel like hooks. She showed up when she said. She left when she said. She put her apology on the calendar and kept it. 6 months after the orange envelope, I met Jaden once more without trying. I was coming out of the market with peaches in a paper bag. He was sitting on the steps of the bus stop, looking at his phone like it owed him something. He saw me. I saw him. He stood. "I heard you got your place," he said. His eyes were not flat now. They were tired. "I had it already," I said. "I just remembered." He nodded. "They called me about the paper." "The cop. I didn't. It doesn't matter. They're going to make me pay for it." "You're paying for a lot of things," I said, not unkind. He swallowed and looked at the street. "I said some things. To Nyla. About you. I was wrong. You can tell her that," I said. He nodded again. Then, as if he couldn't help himself, he added, "You could have called the cops that day on your porch." "I called the neighbors," I said. "Sometimes that's louder." He huffed a laugh that had no joy in it, but maybe a little relief. "Take care," he said. "You too," I said, and meant it in the way you wish a storm would know how to be rain without being a flood. The true ending didn't come with a judge's gavel. It didn't even come with a big family dinner where everyone says sorry at the same time because a clock says so. It came the day Zuri drew our street again, from memory this time, with all the houses in a row and each door a different color, and when she held it up, she had made my door yellow. "Why yellow?" I asked. "Because it looks like it's always morning there," she said. I put the drawing on the fridge with the little wooden crab magnet from Ocean City. The paint is still scratched where that first paper once screamed against the metal. I keep the scratch. It reminds me, if you came here for fireworks, I don't have those. I have cornbread and clear paper and a chair at a table where fear gets smaller. I have a daughter who writes apology with days. I have grandbabies who know the difference between help and harm. I have neighbors who lift their chins when something ugly tries to move in. I have a house that opens to the light every morning like a habit it's proud of. And I have this. A name on a deed, yes, but more than that, my name on my own life. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you felt my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too.